Good evening, everybody.
Yes, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another cast of The Settler's Path with your host, me, SoulGuardian, the the exile leader, excuse me, and then also, yes, Streeg, yes, and also my XO for the exiles would be Streeg.
Hoorah.
We're also joined with the XO, the Dominion side, and that would be Creed. And we have a very special guest tonight with Vedrana, that she is the XO of Final Fantasy.
Hello.
Now tonight, yeah. So tonight, what do we have on the agenda? Crafting. What do you guys think? There were some very interesting things, coming from Philip Chan and his interview with MMORPG. Streeg, what do you think? What's your first reaction to it?
I like it so far. I mean, it's got a very robust system, very complex. I know that from what I've seen, they had kind of a four quadrants for the crafting, and from what I understand, if I understand it correctly, there's some hidden recipes in each one of those quadrants that's going to be unique to each individual person, which is really kind of cool. That way you don't have to go out there and get some cheat sheet out on the web that says, oh, go to this part of the blacked out spot, you'll find a recipe. So I think that's really, really cool. Now, I did think going into this that the end game, elder game content, like the raids and the battlegrounds, would drop items for crafting that could be crafted, which from what I understand after reading the article this week, that it is still on the table, but it's not necessarily set in stone on how they're going to do the elder game with crafting, so that's still kind of up in the air, I guess.
But at least they haven't thrown it away yet. I mean, if it's up in the air, they're thinking about it, it's still there. Now, Creed, would you like that? I mean, would you like to be able to craft things that are raid or the equivalent of raid stuff, or do you want to only have raid drops being the max tier at endgame? Like, where do you see, should the crafting be more than raiding or not?
I would like to be able to craft something that's a little better than raiding. I mean, not incredibly overpowered or anything, but I mean, if we're going to go through some of these raids, and we've all seen, as far as watching, stuff on the net, how tough some of these raids are going to be, and something drops or whatever they're planning on doing, as far as taking something back to the crafting table. I would like to be able to make something maybe just a tad over equivalent, or, maybe just a little bit better than something that drops in the raid, and plus keeping the complexity with it, and making it real tough to make. Whatever drops or whatever components drop or schematics, or I don't know. I'm feeling that they're probably going to be changing some things. I don't know, but I would definitely want to see, me making, say for instance, a gun. Okay, I've got this gun, and I went into this raid, and we just spent hours in this raid, and now I've got this little piece, and then I go to my crafting table and I make a better gun. That was worth it right there to me, most certainly.
Yes, it definitely makes everyone want to raid. I mean, for me personally, I think that you can craft things to get you into the raid and be competitive in the raid, but I don't want to craft something beyond the raid. And especially here, they really show how everything you have in the game, there's a schematic, and those schematics can be adjusted to your class, to your character, to even your style. I mean, I don't know. I find that interesting. Vedrana, how do you think that's going to work? If you think people can really personalize their items, is that a good thing or bad thing, or you just kind of up in the air, don't care about it?
I think it's great, because one thing in our game is we don't have raiding crafting items. We have items that get you into raiding, that will jumpstart you to the raiding level, but we don't have. They've already made a stance that no crafting items will ever come close to raiding items. So I think it would be really behoove the WildStar team to incorporate crafting somewhat into raiding, so that people find it easier to get to the level of raiding without having to grind tokens or grind dungeons and stuff like that. and be able to customize their stats to get what they need, like accuracy, or you guys have a crit or something that you have to avoid crits, something like that.
Yeah, there's different things. Crit. Sorry, Streeg, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it kind of brings up an interesting thought that just kind of, from that conversation, is that, you've got a lot of blank space within your crafting window that you can find new recipes within there if you get lucky enough and hit the right spot. What if they did something along the lines of having a raid drop that was like a free token that you kind of like said, use this token and I will randomly pick something that you don't have uncovered and uncover it for you? That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Now, uncover something for you in what? Just in the crafting regards, or uncover?
Yeah, like a hidden recipe, a hidden schematic that's out there in that black space that you haven't found yet. Maybe maybe you could take that highest tier crafting and say, hey, I'm going to show you where something is that you don't know about. And it'll give you something that you could use from raiding towards your crafting. But at the same time, it doesn't actually create you actual gear that could be overpowered or used over raid gear itself.
I mean, I
or
like
housing stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say housing stuff would be perfect.
But I like the concept. I mean, in past games we've played, everyone's probably familiar with the fact, and like Vedrana was talking about, making gear to put you in the same, realm of everyone else that's able to, okay, you're raid ready. I can look at you. Yeah, you got all your stuff, but you crafted it, so it's kind of under par, but you're right there where you need to be. And then, like Streeg mentions, something drops, and then you can make something just a little bit better, like I was saying earlier. Just not overpowered, but just a little bit better, something that upgraded you, but again, I like Streeg's idea. You don't actually craft a weapon. You got a piece of something. Now you just have to hold on to it, or you have to figure out what it means. And then later on, maybe go do it again or go do something else. And eventually you'll get the big prize at the end and get that weapon. That's a little bit better. Not overpowered, just a little bit better.
Well, what would you guys say, though, if during the raid, you always have your drops, you always have your loot, that's why we do it. But what happens if they were giving you recipes, they were giving you pieces for something that you could actually craft that was better than those drops? Because obviously you would have to go in there, you have to go there multiple times, and to collect it all, and obviously you can only make one at a time. Would you think that would be worthwhile? Would that kind of put you in that mindset, like, oh, I want to craft now and to really gear myself up or my guild up?
What do you mean by one at a... You mean you could only use that recipe once?
Well, you know what I mean. Like, yeah, every recipe you can only use once, and every time you go in there, if you get a full drop, well, someone gets that full drop. It's, a helmet, a chest piece. Well, this time you're
about
only getting
legendary items, like way above.
Right. Would you
want
to be able to craft that?
The only thing I would find that would be difficult is because the way WildStar is doing their crafting, where you kind of start somewhere in the center and you use your tools to kind of go places and hit that mark. What happens if you get some awesome raid drop and it's up in this quadrant and you miss it? Do you lose the recipe and you lose the opportunity? It's not like other games where you could just say, okay, I'm gonna use this special thing and I'm gonna magically, it's just gonna always work. Here it looks like there's a good chance that you might not be able to be successful, and then you've kind of wasted a raid drop. So I'm not sure if that would work or not. I don't know. What do you guys think?
So you're talking about, like, the person that picks it up would have to craft it themselves. Like, no one could help them make it, so it would be something to make you want to craft, to be able to craft that item.
Or even if you had to gather it as a guild, so you can, you farm these raids and you just get all the pieces that you need, so that you can create, just craft this one item for someone, And it would take a lot longer than obviously getting a full drop from a raid. So I'm just curious, like, would people be more interested in crafting, knowing that you could get these epic loots from the raids that have that kind of legendary gear?
The raiders would, absolutely, because raiders' mindset is to get the best available ever, but then you have to take into account that the other half of the game may never see this raid ever, but will those items be sellable on the marketplace? I mean, like stuff like that could just ruin the economy and the value of those items, depending on how they handle it.
Excellent point.
They could always split it, I guess. I mean, you know, how many changes can they possibly do between now and whenever this game's going to come out? They could possibly drop something that, like Vedrana was talking about, something that everybody can use. I mean, it's a guild joint effort. You know, everyone's like, hey, anybody who gets one of these in the guild bank, or anybody that gets one of these, hold on to them. And then you got the pieces that maybe only you can use. You know, so each person will have to run the content and try to get whatever piece they're missing or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah, but I think Vedrana raises a really good point. I mean, because you could, as a guild, say we as a guild go out there and start farm raiding this particular boss or this particular raid, and we start getting these schematics, these recipes. We make this super awesome raid level type gear. You know, if we could turn around and just sell that on the market, we can wind up flooding the market with this high-end raid gear that nobody else should have except for raiders. So you really, I don't think you really want to go down that road.
Yeah, that's why I think it should be no drop, no trade. If someone really wants it, they should get a crafter up to that level, and there should be other, you know, legendary items that other people can give them. But that main item should be stuck to them. If they really want it, they can level up a crafter to get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting point. And Streeg, you came up with you mentioned something about failing during the crafting. And they did talk about this game where you have a 30% chance of failing.
Really?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I was shocked. I mean, I come from old school Lineage 2, where your elite gear, you could spend months, and literally, I mean, maybe even a year getting the right stuff, and then you had, every time you try to craft it, 60% chance of failure.
Wow.
So, I mean, to me, that was the norm. I mean, it was brutal. And so when I heard 30%, I was shocked. I thought it was low in a good way. What do you guys think? Is that too high for you guys, or is it too low?
30% is high, dude. That's high. I was
do
a big
anything to
Lineage
mitigate
player,
it?
so a lot of the games that I crafted in was 15-20% chance of failure. I'm like, you know, here we go. All this math is taking me all this time, and all you have is one button. You know, you press one button, you know, craft or submit or whatever it said on there, you know, and it's just like you were gritting your teeth, you know, it's going to happen.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm sorry,
go
Vedrana, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that it's not necessarily a bad thing, because you get it from a raid drop, assuming it's not like some epic quest that it's like one of 20 pieces or something. But if it's a one-piece drop and it drops on the raid, and you're like me, that is, you know, if there's a 1% chance to fail, I will fail. You know, so you fail, it just gives you an excuse to go back and do the raid again and try to get the drop again, I guess. I mean, there is no, you can only do this raid once thing, so I guess I would be okay with that.
So there's a 30%, sorry, I haven't really delved into it. There's 30%, there's nothing you can do about it at all. That's how they're doing it?
I mean, to quote him right from the article, he says, the system's currently got a hard cap of 30% chance to fail in order to prevent us from risking too much to create something truly absurd. It provides, you know, the difference right there. So yeah, so I think they capped it at 30%. There's nothing you can do about it. I kind of like it. I mean, yes. I mean, I'm used to worse, and so I think it's low. But I just like the idea that there's always that like, it's like an MMO where when you die, you don't lose a percentage of your, you know, XP, or you don't lose anything. There's no risk involved. Then people just jump off cliffs and go to town. You know, maybe 30% is too high for the general public, but I need some kind of risk. It just it aids in the reward that you're given, you know, because you can be like, oh, I got it finally, and then you feel bad for the guy that's failed 6 times in a row. But you know, it's that balance, and I think especially this game, it shows where they try to do a little of everything, and they try to really give you the choices and some of those might not always be the best. So in my mind, I think it works. But
I like the 30%. I think it's good. I mean, through this course of this short conversation about this, I've formed this domino effect in my head. It's like saying you've got this high failure rate, or to me it's high. 30% is high to me compared to what I've played in the past. But then you have, we were talking about flooding the market. People are going to fail a lot. I'm sure there's going to be more failure than success. Like you said, that's going to regulate how many overpowered weapons are going to be on the auction house. People are going to be much more careful about what they're doing. They're going to be wanting to go to these raids a lot more because of the people that fail, like you were mentioning. It seems to domino on each other. So okay, I failed. I got to go back. I'm going to be more careful this time. I'm going to look carefully at this chart or whatever I'm looking at. Last time I didn't care. I thought, oh, I'm going to make this thing. Oops, I failed. So I like it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I like it, and I think maybe they probably did this on purpose to keep the market leveled and keep people from getting too excited and farming a certain guy to get a certain drop. Now there's consequences. I'm all for it.
Yeah, if it affects the economy in a good way, that's great. Because in like EQ2, they had a system where you would like fight the crafting, but in the end of the game, you had so many stats that it didn't really matter anyways, and it was 100% success no matter what. And same with Final Fantasy. And yeah, the market is just flooded with everything. All the high-level items just flooded. So
and we all know what destroys a game more than anything is a bad economy. That's just, if you go, like Vedrana was saying, if you go search for this certain weapon and there's 75 of them, it destroys it for the guy that's making them, and it's destroying it for you because everybody's got one, and there's something certainly better out there, but oh, here they are, So yeah, I hope they keep a close eye on this whole economy thing. I think the failure rate will control that very well.
I got to tell you, personally, I don't know if I want to see a non-raider get their hands on a rating or above level gear, no matter what, from the market. So I don't think I'm for that. And secondly, if you're not a raider, and for those group of people that won't get into raiding, if they decide to get into crafting or whatever and try to play the market, if they have to compete with raiders putting something out there that is raid quality or better, they're never going to be able to sell their stuff, which is going to even hurt the non-raider even more. And I'm not really for that either. So I'm still with Vedrana. I still want to say, if you're going to get them, have them soul bounded, right, SoulGuardian? Did you see that? Did you see that? Did you catch that?
Whoa.
Mind
You're good.
blown.
Like a ninja.
Maybe you just came up with a new term. Maybe your item when you pick it up will be SoulGuardian. Oh.
Wow. Creed, you always go that one step. Okay, bringing us back onto track here. Now, do you guys like the idea? Because everything they say is probably going to be craftable. The schematic for it. But what I thought was interesting is that each item could be adjusted to the stats for your character. So you could get something and you can add your own runes to it. You can add, something else, like it could be Moxie, it could be Tech, it could be something that goes with your character. Do you guys like this idea? Do you like this modification? Do you like really the details in the crafting? I think is kind of interesting. What you can do for the items to really personalize them. Are you guys into that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anytime I can put one of my stats on something, I'm pressing it. I'm choosing it. Or if it's something that needs to be, if you're looking at all your stuff and one of them seems a bit low, and you have an option to raise it. Oh yeah, I'm going to raise it.
That was one of the huge things in WoW and EQ2 and Final Fantasy, was the ability to put runes or whatever they called it in that game, or enchanting or materia onto the item to push you up in one particular stat that you were lacking. And what they can do to actually make that more viable is make a stat that you kind of need for your class, like the warriors or whatever might need to not get critted as much. So you really got to go up to like a certain level of that crit deflection to be effective on this raid, and that would really push that whole part of crafting, I think, into, actually make it viable.
Right. And actually, Dash, if you want to show the chart we have for the different class stats, it's a pretty interesting graph. I know every game you kind of have to learn its own vocabulary, and this game really has a kind of a learning curve in the beginning where you're learning the different things like brutality, finesse, moxie, tech, and these are all the things you can add to your weapons or to your gear. And I think this graph shows a good way of just showing how each thing means different things for different people. So depending on what you want to be or how you want to personalize your character, you really have to think about it and adjust accordingly. I mean, looking at this graph, I don't know about you guys, but I think it's amazing how each one gives you something different, but at the same time, each one is important to someone somewhere. So if those runes, some games you get something for a healer, and you're like, okay, there's 4 healers on this server. I can't really craft anything with this because there's no market for it. Yeah. But I feel like this is going to make the market, which is really in their mind space. And I think they really have thought about it, and it's going to make adjusting weapons for the market feasible for crafters. I mean, don't you think so?
Yep.
Again, it's helped the economy. It's helping every item be valuable to somebody. There's no more, well, look at all these guns on this auction house. I can't use none of these. That's not going to happen. You'll be able to use them. Anybody will be able to use anything. That's as an overall, helping everyone is what I like about it.
Yeah, I'm with Soul. I like it. I mean, kind of like what you were saying. You get those drops, and they're like a wisdom stat. And unless you happen to be a healer, it's pretty much worthless. Or intelligence. If you happen to be a caster, oh, that's awesome. But if you're not a caster, who needs it? But here with their new vocabulary and the new way they're doing things, I like it. I like it a lot, and I like it that it's different for every class that you play. It's not like normal MMOs where if you have strength, you know what it does. If you have wisdom, you know what it does. Here, depending on which class you have, it's going to mean something completely different, which I think is really cool. I like the way they went with that one.
Yeah, just looking across the board, I'm looking at the red saying assault, and it's for the warrior it's brutality. For the engineer, it's finesse. It's for the esper, it's mox. It's so many different things. So if you have that rune for brutality, or for assault or something that adds to that, boom, you got it. Or it could be good for whoever. But it's always worthwhile. And I find the more I look at the crafting stuff, the more complex it actually is getting. And the perfect evidence of this is actually, Dash, if you want to show the other chart, this blows my mind. I mean, I can't even get into it. I'm not going to pick out every little thing, but I mean, when you guys saw this, what do you think? I mean, because I'm looking at it wow, this is a crafter's dream world, I would think. And did this blow you guys away or what?
I just kept thinking, kind of like Creed was saying earlier before the cast, man. I just got to bookmark this thing because there's no way I'm gonna remember all this stuff. I mean, you look at those things. I mean, it's an awesome chart. I mean, it tells you, hey, if you're gonna go survivalist, there's what you get, and if you're gonna go mining, here's what you get, and if you're gonna do these craftings over here, this is what you get. If you're gonna salvage these things, all these. I mean, it's a fantastic thing, but oh my god, I'm never going to remember all that stuff. That's going to be definitely give me a bookmark, and when I need to see it, I will just look it up.
Crafting is going to be very advanced in this game. There's going to have to be a lot of thought put into this stuff. It's not going to be someone just saying, I'm going to craft these and jumping into it and making his money and everything like we're all familiar with seeing in the past. It's going to be careful thought. You're going to have to come up with a plan. And as we were talking about the stats, the different stats for different classes, it's going to be very, very careful thought put into this stuff.
Definitely.
Now, just kind of I'm thinking about. I'm sorry. I'm still thinking of this graph, and it just kind of makes my eyes go cross.
At
And
all.
the funny thing, though, is that I think this is going to attract a lot of crafters. I think people are going to be very intrigued. I think people are going to be amazed that they even talked about how when you craft something, if you adjust the recipe, it's going to be different from what you do and what someone else does. I find that interesting. So it's really going to be subjective, exactly how that recipe is. You can't just find the exact directions how to make a certain thing. You're going to have a feel for it. And also, what they talked about, obviously, was the nodes. Now, do you guys, how interesting is it to you guys that the nodes, you actually, can attack you? You could spawn a cavern where there's more nodes, maybe even a village they're thinking about, or people down there.
Nodes?
I mean, is this the nodes where you actually, the mining nodes?
They attack you?
They actually will attack you. Yeah, they talked about creatures, they'll run away from you.
Yeah.
Or like a giant worm will come out and you have to beat it, and then you crawl down its mouth, and there's like a cave where they talk about like there's more. Yeah. So I mean, okay, coming from Final Fantasy, is that just
They don't attack you. A tree just sits there and you harvest it.
Yep.
I mean, do you like this twist though? I mean, does it?
Yeah,
Is it
I mean,
exciting, or is it just like another gimmick?
it definitely lives up to WildStar's hype about being, new and exciting, and different. I don't think it's gimmicky at all. I mean, that makes sense to try and keep people who are not supposed to be there from harvesting that node. You need to have a battle class that could handle that thing, the worm or whatever.
Well, and the thing is, it doesn't do it all the time. It's just, it's like you're crafting. You got a percentage. You could be hacking away at stones and collecting your stuff, and then all of a sudden, half an hour in, some giant worm comes out of the ground, tries to swallow you whole. I mean,
That is hilarious.
it's kind of cool.
Wow.
Hey, I think it's just their personality coming through, and I think it's their unpredictability, which is really coming through, and it just makes the most mundane things exciting again. Because yes, it could jump out on you, and all of a sudden you have a war at your hands. I don't know. I'm personally, I'm not a big crafter, but this intrigues me so I know I'm gonna have to try and do it. But I think. Anyone else want to talk about the crafting? Any more comments you would like to suggest before I kind of wrap this up?
Well, I'm not going to be a big crafter either. I'm going to craft, and it'll probably be for me like I've done in past games. I'll probably, and again, what Vedrana was talking about earlier, I will craft what I need to get where I need to go. I'm not going to be one of the big guys on the server, and you always know who the big crafters were on your server. I mean, yeah, if you want this, go to this guy's house. He's got it all. Well, I'm probably not going to be that guy. I'm going to craft what I need, and if my guildie says, "Hey, man, can I have one of those?" I'll craft him one. That's going to be about it. That's probably about as far as my crafting will go. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think if I get into crafting at all, that architect or whatever that does things for your housing plot, that's probably the one I'd go with, because I figure, weapons you can always replace, armor you can always out level and need to replace, but housing stuff, man, that's you'll always need something for your house. So if you get bored, you can always say, hey, I need to go make something for my house, and I need 30 of them, so I'm just gonna keep crafting them. So I imagine I'm pretty excited to go down that route. I think.
Yeah,
you just want a giant keyboard, I think, crafting on your property, right?
Awesome.
I want it all.
I'm probably going to do what I did in WoW and have several alts that just are codependent with each other, and I'm not going to be a big major into it, but definitely one craft per character. So.
Now, if they do something with raids, and I have to have, say, a weaponsmith to use that recipe, then you better believe I'm going to level up a weaponsmith with no doubt. So, do it all.
Hey, that's what happens, right? When you want the best stuff, you'll do whatever it takes.
That's right.
Got to put the work into it. If you want the good stuff, you got to put the work into it, and we all like that. I know I do. I don't want nothing handed to me.
Yep.
Exactly. We want to feel like we've earned it, and then we want to show it off, because that's what us as gamers do. and we do it well.
Chinese.
Shinies, exactly. Well, guys, we have big news. Obviously, we have no idea what the news is yet, but we had a good teaser. Dash, if you want to show that. So next week is going to be interesting. They had this quick little poster about a movie, a choose well, be rewarded kind of thing, from the caretaker. What do you guys think? Is this going to be something big, or you think it's just going to be what? What do you? Let's just guess. Each one of you guess to see what it's going to be next week. Streeg, we'll start with you.
Oh yeah, I saw this.
It is going to be, I'm almost positive that it is going to be the pre-order packs and different options for different pre-order packs. And I am going on a gut hunch that they might also include a release date. I think we're getting to be about that time. They might be able to say end of March or March 31st or whatever the date is that they're planning on coming up with. But I think we're getting close enough that I think they can announce a 2-3 month away release date with that.
I like that guess. Creed, what do you think?
Streeg took my guess. That was the first thing that really popped in my mind was a release date or just a roundabout figure, And all I'd say, if it was toward the end of part of March, that would be an awesome birthday present for me. Awesome. If they were to say, this game is coming out, be excited, look forward to it, and just, I would be just ecstatic. Other than guessing anything else, nothing really comes to mind. Pre-order stuff would be good. If that comes out, I will certainly be getting mine. But I would like a release date. Not even an exact date. Just give me a kind of narrow the.
Already did that spring.
Narrow it down.
Right. Isn't the season narrow enough? Come on now.
Yeah, really.
Or winter, as Sony likes to call it.
Right.
That's right.
Ron, any guesses, or you think that's kind of the theme of this?
I saw this on Reddit and I had no freaking clue what it was. I was like, is someone gonna read me a book or something? I don't. I no clue. I'll go with them. Pre-orders, release date would be nice.
Yeah, pre-orders
Hologram.
I'm pretty sure about. I mean, just by the words themselves, choose well, be rewarded. I mean, that to me says you're going to choose between multiple advanced pre-purchase things, and depending on which ones you get, you're going to get different rewards. So choose well.
That'd be cool to have different pre-orders, because normally it's like one thing and you get one thing and everybody gets it.
Well, hopefully next week, once this is released, they will tell us, and we can all talk about exactly what package we want, if it's worth it, and if we're really going to choose well and be rewarded or not.
And if that's what it is, we should have plenty to talk about next Thursday.
Oh yeah, no shortage, because we're all fans of the game, and of course the pre-package, the pre-orders are all kind of like showing exactly how big of a fan we really are. Come on. And so we all want to talk about it and be like, oh, I want that mount, or I want that item, I want that storage space, or I want that for my house. Yeah. We're all going to be arguing over it, and it's going to be perfect, just the way we like it.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, thank you for joining me tonight on Seller's Path. And I think how it's going to end it, but choose well and be rewarded. Have a great night.